In this video, we are going to revisit the unit circle to find exact values of angles that occur in multiples of 90. So on the axes, it's 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, 360, and so on. We have already talked about most of the main ideas in this video. We're just going to revisit it and actually look at some examples formally. Remember that in a unit circle, that means that the radius of this circle is 1. And that allows us to write the coordinates of where the axes meet the unit circle. So this first point, when the theta, the angle is 0, we've gone 1 to the right and 0 up. So that coordinate is 1, 0. And then here, when theta is 90 degrees, the angle is 90 degrees, we've gone 0 over, so the x value is 0, but we've gone up 1. Over here, when the x-axis is negative, we've gone to the left 1 and up 0. And then at 270, we've gone to the left and right 0, but we've gone down 1. So you are expected to know these coordinates. And then we discussed that because of the unit circle and the hypotenuse being 1, we know that the sine of any angle is equal to the y value of the coordinate, and the cos of any angle is equal to the x value of the coordinate. And then we talked about how tan theta is just sine theta over cos theta, where sine is y and cos is x. So this unit circle and the coordinates that we've identified is the first tool that we are going to use to find ratios and to solve trigonometric equations without a calculator. So in the first question we will look at, we are asked to find the ratio of the following. And we have, if you notice, the angles are all multiples of 90 degrees. So that means we're only talking about angles where the axes meet the unit circle. And again, we're doing this without a calculator. So sine of 90, so sine, you have to remember, you're looking at the y value of the coordinate. So 0 degrees is along the x-axis, so 90 degrees is along the positive y-axis. We go counterclockwise for positive angles, and the y value for that coordinate is 1. So sine 90 is equal to 1. The next question, we have cos 270. Cos, we're looking at the x value. So 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees is the negative y-axis. So we're going down. We're now looking at the x value, so that is equal to 0. Part C, again, we're looking at the sine. So that's y of 360. So we were at 270 down here, the negative y-axis. So 360, we're back along the positive x-axis. So we're looking at the y value, which is 0. So that means sine of 0 degrees is going to give us a ratio of 0, and sine of 360 is also going to give us a ratio of 0 because we're in the same place on the unit circle. In parts D and E, we're looking at the tan ratio. So we're looking at the sine value over the x value, so y over x. So at 180 degrees, we are along the negative part of the x-axis. The y value is 0, the x value is negative 1. So we will write 0 divided by negative 1. When the numerator is 0 and you're dividing by any number, you always end up with 0. So 0 divided by any number is 0. So tan 180 is equal to 0. Tan 270, so the negative y-axis. So again, we're looking at the y value divided by the x value. So here we have negative 1 divided by 0. Well, this is opposite. There's a big difference between 0 divided by negative 1 and negative 1 divided by 0. Here, when you have any number divided by 0, that's undefined. You can't divide a number by 0. So if you notice, on the axes, your values for sine and cos are always 0 or 1 or negative 1, and your values for tan are always going to be 0 or undefined because you're always doing 0 divided by a number or a number divided by 0 along those axes. So that is the first type of question you could be asked without using a calculator. Here's an angle and find the ratio of that angle. And if you notice, there's only one answer because it's one specific angle. What is the ratio of that angle? Question 2 is different. Question 2, we are not given the angle, but we are given the ratio. So we're asked what angle or angles, because there could be more than one solution, give us this ratio. So, and of course, we have to restrict our interval because there's actually unlimited number of answers if we don't restrict. So we always have to restrict. So here it's between 0 and 360. We're looking for sine. So now we're going to go to the unit circle and see anytime the y value is equal to 1. So here it's 0, up here it's 1, the positive y-axis, then it's 0 again, and then -1. So going around that circle, up into here, back up to the x-axis at 360 degrees, because my interval includes 360 degrees, I only have a y value that is equal to 1 once, and that is at 90 degrees. So we just simply say theta equals 90 degrees. In part B, we have cos theta equals -1. So now I'm looking at where the x value is -1. So at 0 degrees, it's 1. At 90 degrees, 0. At 180 degrees, I have -1. And at 270, I have 0. And back to 360, I have 1. So again, in that full unit circle, going around one full rotation, I only have an x value of -1 once. So then we just say the only solution is when theta equals 180 degrees. And then in the last question, we have tan theta equals 0. Tan is sine theta over cos theta is equal to 0. So remember, sine is y, cos is x. So we want to know when is y divided by x equal to 0. So here, it does not matter what's on the denominator because 0 divided by any number is going to equal 0. So we are just basically looking when the numerator is 0. So that means we really just want when sine theta is equal to 0. So that means we're going to look at our coordinates and see when does the y coordinate equal to 0. So let's go back to the unit circle. At 0 degrees, we have a y value of 0. The x value is 1. 0 divided by 1 is 0. So that means 0 degrees is a solution. But let's keep going. At 90 degrees, the y value is 1. So 1 divided by 0 is undefined, so that's not a solution. At 180 degrees, we do have a y value of 0. 0 divided by -1 is again 0. So that means 180 degrees is also 0. At 270, we have -1 divided by 0, which is undefined. So that is not a solution. And then we have to go back to this arm, the positive x-axis, because this is 360. And again, that interval does include 360 degrees. So we go along here. The y value again is 0. 0 divided by 1 is 0. So that means 360 degrees is also a solution. So in this question, there are actually 3 solutions in that interval for this equation to be true. So please take a moment to know the difference between number 1 and number 2. In number 1, you're given the angle and you're finding the ratio, and there will always be one answer. And number 2, you're given the ratio and asked to find the angle being the solution, and there could be more than one solution.